Hi all, Alicia Tubbs here with the Sudden Homesteader, and today I want to talk about two evangelistic ministries that I discovered near my hometown. And these ministries can be started up anywhere by anyone, no training needed. Those ministries are a laundromat ministry and a prayer tent ministry. I want to begin by speaking about the laundromat ministry. A few towns over, there is a ministry in which a group of people from a church go to a laundromat on a Saturday morning and they wash loads of laundry for the people in that community for free. The church actually pays for the laundry to be washed. This ministry takes place in a community that really needs it, and on top of that, they give the people living water. So over the years, they have had people come and sign up for this ministry, and these people come back every month. They do it once a month on a Saturday. And before they wash clothes, they offer a Bible study in the morning, and they offer it in the laundromat. And people will come to that Bible study, they'll learn about Jesus, and people have been saved, but not only saved, but discipled through this ministry. If you think about it, it's really a brilliant concept, because when people are washing their clothes, it's a great opportunity to talk to them about Jesus, to share the gospel if they've never heard the gospel, and to disciple, maybe go through a book with them. I went this past weekend to observe, and while I was there, I saw a woman sitting next to another woman who was waiting for her laundry to be done, and they had the Bible open, and they were going through the Bible, and I could tell that the woman from the church was ministering to this lady who was getting her clothes washed. These types of conversations have been happening inside that laundromat for years. I spoke with the woman who started this ministry, and she explained to me that years ago, her church had gone on a missions trip in another state, and she got to observe firsthand how the church in that state ran their laundromat ministry. And then when they returned to their home church, her pastor asked if she would run a ministry like that in a neighborhood near their church. And she did. When I first stepped into the laundromat and I saw all of her materials laid out, and she had everything organized, the detergent, the dryer sheets, she had a file filled with paperwork. At first I was overwhelmed and thought, how could anyone do this? But then as she explained everything to me, it just made perfect sense. And if there's anyone in your church who has administrative skills, this would be a great thing to put them in charge of, to administer this program. And then the people in your church who are more comfortable maybe talking to others and helping others do their laundry could just come in. The administrative work has already been done, and they could just get plugged in and start serving and ministering to people, discipling people, sharing the gospel with people. It is just a wonderful, wonderful thing for any church to undertake. So if you are anywhere in the United States or even outside of the United States, and there's a laundromat near your church, and you know that the surrounding community could really use help, especially during these times, then I encourage you to start up a ministry like this. And I asked the woman who runs it, I said, how many people started this? And she explained to me that she basically got it going, and then they had a group that would come regularly once a month on the Saturday that they would have it. But that group has changed so much over time that basically no one from the original group is still there. But she said that God always provides. He always provides the perfect number of workers. She has never been without. And I know that when you are walking with the Lord and you are doing His work, He does provide. He is a good Father. And He smiles down especially on His children who are bringing the gospel of His Son to others, and who are helping the poor. The Bible is very clear about helping the poor. But something I love about this ministry is that it's not just about helping people physically, which is very important, but it's also about supplying them with living water. I got to speak a little bit more in depth with the woman who started it, and she went through her file of papers and showed me everything that she had made over the years. If you are going to start a ministry like this, then you need to be in contact with the laundromat owners of the laundromats around you. One laundromat owner may not want you to have this ministry there, and another may. And really it benefits them because the amount of business they get is pretty amazing. And also they get sure payment because the church is putting the coins in. Something you'll also want to do is figure out how many loads of laundry you can promise per person. At this particular ministry, they were doing 2 loads per person, no large loads, like no mega loads. And so she had a list of items that they wouldn't wash, things like comforters and dog bedding because those would need a bigger washing machine. And she also figured that 2 loads was just the right amount of time to keep the laundromat humming, to allow for the machines to be opened up for other people who would come and want to do their laundry. She also had a list of everyone who was receiving the service from the church, and it was about 20. She said that at one point they had about 40 people using their service, but then another church opened up a laundromat ministry. But she said she didn't see that as competition. She saw that as just spreading the goodness, which I really love that. All of us in these local churches or local Christian communities, we're all part of one body, and we're all trying to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. So you'll develop your own rules as you go about doing this ministry. You'll figure out what those rules are and how to word it. And she had it all just on one sheet, explaining it all. She also had a map that gave people directions to their church, so people could come and ask, well, where's your church? And she could just show them. She also had with her tracts. Now, I love this. Her pastor made this tract, How to Get Clean. He made it just for this particular ministry. And, it's got the gospel message and pertinent Bible verses, and on the back, how to get in contact with the church, and their Facebook page, a call to come to salvation in Jesus Christ right now. It's funny, when I started evangelizing, I committed myself to making my own tracts, and I still do. I make tracts for holiday times and for specific evangelistic events, or I'll make tracts for specific communities. First of all, you get to put the information that you want on it, because some tracts might leave out information that you feel is really important to the gospel message. But also it helps you to really put on that helmet of salvation, to really understand how it is a person receives salvation, how you received your salvation, and how they can receive salvation in Jesus Christ and in Him alone. So I just loved this. I just thought this was just all these little personal touches really made this ministry just so special. So if you do a ministry like that, I'm sure there are people in your congregation who have skills, like someone who might have the skill to put together a tract just for that ministry. And it would be really special if they could do something like that. And you'll see the whole body come together in different ways and contribute to a ministry like this. She also had a copy of the Romans Road. She also keeps one in Spanish, and it has the Spanish and the English, so she can walk someone through the gospel of Jesus Christ if they speak Spanish. Another thing that was just so awesome about this particular ministry is that other ministries could jump on board. The week that I was there, for example, they had food boxes that had obviously come from a food pantry or some kind of food ministry. So people could come, they could get their soul fed at Bible study, they could get their laundry washed, they could get a food box. And then on top of that, which I love and it's so near and dear to my heart, the prayer tent was there. I've spoken about the prayer tent before. I just love this concept, and I love all the people who I have met who work the prayer tent. The lady who set it up, she just went in faith because she knew what I've been saying, right? What a lot of Christians around the country and around the world are feeling is that people are not coming to church, not like they used to, and we have to go to them. The Bible has always commissioned us to go to the people, but now more than ever, we need to be doing that. And I think here in America, we got comfortable with setting up church and just having people come to church. But we're realizing that there are shortcomings with that model and that we really need to go in faith like the Bible tells us to, like God instructs us to. So the prayer tent was there and we got lots of traffic. The prayer tent was set up on a corner of a busy street, so people just driving by could see us and they would just pull in the parking lot. And we had signage. They had people standing on the sidewalk with signs that said prayer tent. There's another prayer tent a few towns over and their signs say free prayer. So if you do set up one of these prayer tents, you can word it however you'd like. The signage really helps because it grabs people visually. And then the tent really helps because then people, they see the sign and then they see the tent and they know that they could pull into that parking lot and there's a tent, there's a place for them. I could see this kind of pop-up tent ministry just taking the country by storm. Just lay people everywhere who know that it is the 11th hour. They know deep down in their heart that Jesus is calling, that He's telling them to go. And I have a feeling that this type of ministry, these pop-up ministries on street corners, in parking lots, on sidewalks, are really going to take the country by storm. It is my prayer that that happens. It is my prayer that people watching this video will start pop-up tents, tailgate prayer, or umbrella prayer ministries, or that someone will go and get car magnets and just have a prayer van or gospel van, whatever it is you want to call it. But it is my prayer that lay people everywhere will recognize that it's the 11th hour and we need to go. The parable in Matthew 20 about the 11th hour vineyard workers tells us that at the end of this age, no man is going to hire us, lay people, me. I do not need a church to hire me and put me on staff so that I can then go out and do evangelism. I'm just going to go and do evangelism. If a church hires me, fine. But if no man hires me, I don't have to worry. I never have to worry because I am commissioned by God. I am employed by Him. And every single lay person out there, you are employed by Jesus Christ to go and spread His gospel. And you don't need permission. You don't need session approval. In fact, if you are in a church that's really heavy on bylaws and session approval, your best bet is just to fund yourself and go. And hopefully your congregation will catch wind of what you're doing. You'll report back to them what you're doing. You'll tell them about upcoming things. And maybe you'll get some donations. And maybe you can get your congregation to hand out tracts. And you can invite people who you know the Lord is stirring up to come with you and evangelize, or to come with you to this prayer tent. So during this 11th hour, I encourage you, if you are listening to this and your heart is being stirred, go and set up a prayer tent or something like it and get some friends on board, some Christian friends. They don't have to be from your church. The prayer tent that I'm a part of is about a half hour from my house, and there are people from at least 3 different churches, including my own, that come out to this tent. And a gentleman from my congregation actually heard about it and is now coming with us, and he brought his grandson. So this kind of ministry is catching fire. People want to do it. The lay person wants to go and work the vineyard. I am considering actually starting a prayer tent in my town. I've been talking to the woman who started this tent to figure out how she did it. And she said that she had heard about it from a friend of hers, and she went to see how they did it. And she got information on where to buy the tent and where to set up. And she just went in faith, bought the tent, and started doing it. In fact, when I first went to set up with a prayer tent, the people running it had set it up at the very fringe of a Walmart parking lot, right where the traffic was coming in, but so far away from all the stores that we weren't taking up any pertinent parking spaces. Like no one was going to park there. I told the lady running it that I'd like to take some pictures and I'd like to post about this on the internet to help encourage others who might want to do something similar. And I love this, without missing a beat, this dear sister in the Lord who I absolutely love. I love all of my brothers and sisters in the Lord, of course. This dear, dear sister, I laughed just thinking about it. She said, well, tell them to just buy the tent. And in all honesty, that's what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you to just buy the tent. Like, just do it. And I just love that honesty, and I just love the faith behind that statement. It is just, man, spot on. So, and basically that's what the woman running the tent told me. Like, I just bought the tent. And I looked up the company that she bought it from. I think it's called Instant Promotions, and I don't get paid to say any of this. I noticed that if you bought a pop-up tent, that you could also buy signs to go with it. So I'm assuming that's what she did, is order the signs as well to go with it. She also ordered t-shirts. Now, I don't know if that was all part of Instant Promotion or if she ordered the t-shirts somewhere else, but she just ordered the stuff. She said that she had tried to set up in other parking lots and had security come up to her and tell her that she needed a permit and things like that. I could see how it would be really easy to be discouraged if that happens, but she just kept going until she got to a parking lot where no one bothered her. Now, you could go ahead of time and look up your city's rules about permits. I know that in some of the areas around here, if you want to set up a tent, you must get a permit, and that permit's only good for a certain amount of time. It costs money, of course. In some cases, you may only be able to set up that tent 3 weeks out of the year. So if that's something that you want to do, and maybe you do want to take a collection at your church, tell them what you're doing, and get the permit, and just circulate your tent from town to town to town underneath those laws and those permits. Or you could just be really shrewd, and you could just have your tent in a different parking lot every week. And if you're asked to leave one parking lot or told that you need a permit, go to another. Just keep going until you're able to stay in a parking lot where no one bothers you for that week. And then, of course, don't go back to the parking lots that told you that you need a permit unless you have a permit, right? Because you want to follow the rules once you've been told what those rules are. In talking with the woman who runs this tent, she also told me that she was going to go to churches that were on big highways and that had parking lots right off of main streets and tell them about her ministry and see if she could put up her tent there. And maybe people would pull in to those parking lots. And I even suggested to her to ask those churches if there's anyone in the congregation who has a business on a very busy street where she could do that, because people might be a little bit more comfortable just going to a business with a prayer tent than they would be going to a church with a tent, because they might think that there's a church event going on and they may not necessarily want to go to church or go to that particular church because it's not a denomination that they're comfortable with, whatever the case may be. So that's another option too. Ask around to see if there are people who'd be willing to host your tent. And then look around for ministries like the Laundromat ministry, or maybe a food drive, or a big ministry where people from all over the community are coming and you could set up your prayer tent as a sort of add-on. Another thing you could do, which I might try to do, is just have signage. The folks at the prayer tent were telling me that they knew of another group of people who were not allowed to have a tent in their city because their city didn't allow them to have anything over their head without a permit. And I don't know if that includes umbrellas, like a handheld umbrella that says, free prayer. I don't know if that would include that, but because they were not allowed to have anything over their head, they got a large banner. And they put the banner out, I'm assuming on a sidewalk or something. And the city also required that the banner be held. So someone from their group has to put a hand on the banner at all times. It sounds really silly talking about it. And a lot of these rules that infringe upon freedoms are coming from the enemy, but we still have to follow them if we want to peaceably have our ministries available to the public. Another idea I had is buying a shopping cart, could be a large one or a small one, and putting all of my tracts and things in the shopping cart and putting signs around the shopping cart that said free prayer, and just pushing it around parking lots or pushing it along a sidewalk. I thought to myself, like, people who push around shopping carts with their belongings in it don't really get bothered all that much. So what's the difference if I push around a cart filled with tracts and my cart just happens to have signs on it that says Jesus saves? I know it sounds ridiculous, but y'all, I'm a fool for Christ and I'm proud of it. And actually the idea of doing something like this really excites me, because something I noticed about the prayer tent is that when you're in parking lots, needy people, homeless people, they will come to your tent, and that's a great opportunity to minister to them. We have blessing bags to hand out, blankets, hand warmers, and so you could put all that stuff in your cart and you could minister to the poor and to the homeless right out of your cart. And at the same time, you could be available for prayer and for gospel proclamation to anyone who wants to come to your cart. And also with a cart, you're mobile. You can go around and talk to people after they're finished loading their groceries into their car and just say, here, I made this goodie bag, or here's a tract, or I noticed you had some kids, I have some little goodies in here. And just say, here, this is from my church. Even if you made it yourself and funded it yourself, you could say it's from your church because you are the church, right? You are part of the Church Universal. It's from your church, Church Universal, Christians everywhere. And hopefully you can get your congregation on board too. Maybe someone can help you put these goodies together. And ideally, you would not be doing this alone. You would not be going to a parking lot and just ministering to whoever by yourself, right? You'd have people with you, someone to hand out tracts, someone to hold signs, someone to pray with people, someone to proclaim the gospel, whatever it is. So I love this concept of prayer tent. And you could go and order the tent and do it. In fact, I was telling the lady who runs the prayer tent ministry that it would be awesome if these prayer tents started popping up everywhere. Funny story, her daughter actually saw one in Tucson, so they are popping up. But if this really took hold and people across the United States and beyond started doing this, we could even have a master website, which someone much more competent in technology than myself would put together, and they could list the locations of these prayer tents, the times. I do recommend posting the time that you're going to be available for prayer. So if you have a banner, a cart, a prayer van, a prayer tent, whatever it is, post your sign, free prayer or prayer van, whatever you want to say, and also post the hours that you will be available, because I notice that some people will come into a parking lot, but they won't come to the prayer tent until after they've done their errands. And I imagine that there were probably people who saw the tent and thought to themselves, well, maybe I'll do that. But then maybe we were gone by the time that they had done their errands. So if you post your hours, they will know that if they go into the store, by the time they come out, you'll be gone. So they might be more likely to come to the prayer tent before they go into the store. And if you see a prayer tent or people evangelizing, by all means support them somehow. Give them encouragement, put them on your prayer list, pray for them. My favorite thing about these two ministries, the prayer tent and the laundromat, are the people who come, and also my dear brothers and sisters who run these ministries. I have not found fellowship like this with other believers, and I can't tell you how long. I don't know if I've ever had fellowship like this. And it's not that we say a lot of words to each other. In fact, we don't even talk all that much to each other. It's just that kindred connection in the Holy Spirit, just knowing that we have found each other, that we have found people who are 11th hour warriors, going in faith, getting out there, and just loving on this world with the gospel of Jesus Christ. As I was leaving the prayer tent, one of the ladies just came up to me and gave me the biggest hug and just said, "I love you." It was just so natural. And I said, "I love you." And I was like, "I love all of you all." And as we were all leaving, we were just saying, "I love you, I love you." And I thought to myself, the last time that I was with a group of people who were saying, I love you, as we were leaving, was my actual family, like my blood relatives. And the people at the prayer tent, we were basically complete strangers. I've only known them for 2 hours at a clip over the course of maybe 2 months, if that. And as we were parting ways, it was as if we were blood relatives and as if we had known each other for all of our lives. Now, I have dear brothers and sisters who I see very regularly, who I love very deeply. But in doing this ministry and finding people who are just going in faith, who just know it's the 11th hour and are just following Jesus in reckless abandonment, just fools for Christ, but still being as wise as serpents and innocent as doves. It's just a different level of connection. The possibilities are limitless, but really, we can only do our own part. You might start a prayer tent, or you might be that person that comes alongside the person that starts a prayer tent, or you might be that person who makes a website that connects all the prayer tents, or you may be the person who takes pictures at your prayer tent and posts them for your church to see, or you may be the person who makes the tracts. Whatever it is, I just encourage you to find others who are stepping out in faith, who are being 11th hour warriors, and you just go into battle with them. And I promise you'll be blessed. And even just being a visible presence in your community with a banner or with a tent or with an umbrella or a cart, whatever it is, just being that visible presence could change somebody's heart. They could get saved. They may not even come to your prayer tent. That prayer tent might just be just the nudge that they need to encourage them to go to church that Sunday, hear the gospel, get saved, whatever it may be. Just go and be the hands and feet of Christ. Go in faith. So you can start a ministry like this, like the prayer tent, like the laundry ministry, which I encourage you to do. And if you don't start one, I highly encourage you to go out and support one. You know, work with them for a day. Just go and pray with people. I mean, how easy is that? You just stand there, people pull up, you pray with them. And then if they need a Bible, you have Bibles. And at the very least, pray for evangelists. Pray for someone when you see them out street evangelizing, or if someone leaves a tract somewhere in public and you see it. Pray for the person who left that tract. Pray that that tract reaches into someone's heart, because people do get saved reading gospel tracts. And if you're watching this video today and you have not put your trust in Jesus Christ, the Son of God, then I encourage you to do that. All you have to do is believe that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the Messiah, came down from heaven. He was perfect. He died for our sins on the cross to forgive every sin that we have ever committed. He was buried in a tomb. God raised him to life 3 days later. And because he was perfect, only Jesus could take all of our sins upon himself. He was emptied of sin so that all sin could be placed on him. He was the perfect sacrifice. And all you have to do is cry out to God and ask God to forgive your sins in Jesus Christ. Just believe that Jesus took it all and that only he can save you from your sin. And if you want to know more about Jesus and how he saved us from our sins, you can follow the links in the description below. And if you want free gospel tracts that I've created so that you can go and print them out today and start evangelizing right now, that is also in the description below. I love you all so much.